Hello everyone, I'm Justin, and for today's video, we're taking a look into the winter 2023 anime season to see what I'll be watching, what do I think it's going to be great, what do I think it's going to be bad, and which ones I think you should be looking out for. So without further ado, let's start with the video. First is the Misfit of the Demon King's Academy. This is the second season. If you haven't watched the first season, well, Anos Boldigot is the best main character ever. He is just the Giga Chad, the perfect protagonist, the guy who doesn't give a shit. He's just there to kick ass and get all the girls. It's a really funny anime, just like a guy grabbing a castle and throwing it in the air, doing really crazy stuff. This is a really funny, unintentionally funny anime that tries to take it seriously, but you know it's kind of funny in a way. So yeah, I think there is a reason why this is the most popular anime that's coming back this season. So I think we'll see something great this time. Then we have the second season of Pofuri. This is a really funny slice of life kind of isekai, not isekai because it is just in a video game anime, but it's still really funny. It's just about a girl who maxes out her defense skills, so she uses a shield and just like spends time with her guild, but she always gets really OP powers and just like doing crazy stuff. It's a really funny slice of life anime. There's a lot of cute girls doing cute stuff, but there is also like the thematic of video games. So if you're interested into that, I think the first season was really fun. I think the second season will be just more of that. Then we have the second season of Vinland Saga. I have no idea why this is in the first place in the popularity chart, because this is supposed to be one of the greatest animes that was ever made. The first season was just perfect. It had so much action, so much story, so much depth. The drama was so interesting. All the moving parts were on point. And I heard the second season goes into a really different route, going more into the drama rather than the fighting. So we'll see where this goes. But I heard the manga is amazing. I heard the first season was basically just the prelude of what's going to happen. This is going into the main story now, so we'll see where it goes. But I heard this is going to be one of the most hyped animes for this season. Then we have the second part of the fourth season of Is It Wrong to Pick Girls in a Dungeon? I think this is really good. I watched already the other seasons. I think maybe the third season wasn't as interesting as the other ones. I think the fourth season picked it up a bit, but it wasn't still to the point that was the first and second season. But I do think that the first part ended in a really interesting cliffhanger where he's alone in the dungeon in a really deep level. So we'll see where it goes from that. I think that point look to be interesting. So moving forward, we will see the guy by himself, and I guess the other characters will try to get him back from the depths. But we'll see. I think I really like how the story builds. I really like the power leveling system here. So yeah, I think I will be watching it. Of course, I know it's difficult for people to start watching this because it's already the fourth season. So if you haven't watched anything before, it will be kind of difficult to just binge four seasons before watching this. So yeah, I think if you have already watched, I think you will be watching. But if you haven't watched it, I think it's not probable that the second part of the fourth season will be the thing that makes you watch it. Then we have the second season of the slime guy. I think it's called something about the blessings of the goddess or something like that. Yeah, it's the second season for this one, and the first season I think it was interesting. I think it wasn't anything extraordinary, but I still think it was still fun. The main guy just uses slimes for everything. He creates like his own laundry company using the cleaning slimes, and he basically just creates different types of slimes, giving them different food. And yeah, he's just a guy that just takes his time with slimes. But this is basically a slice of life isekai with a guy that is supposed to be OP, but he's not really using his powers for like fighting or anything else. He's just enjoying life with his slimes. Then we have the second season of the Fruit of Evolution. I mean, I think the first season was kind of boring. I think the animation was subpar. I did watch everything, but I thought it wasn't that interesting. He's basically just the fat guy who becomes handsome, and different girls that join him and become his kind of followers slash kind of lovers. And yeah, I think there wasn't that much depth into this one. The guy just basically gets powers out of nowhere. He just walks somewhere and gets a lot of powers by doing basically nothing. I think it was kind of boring. I think the world kind of looked interesting, but they didn't really deliver into explaining too much of the stuff. So yeah, I think I will be watching it, but I understand if you don't want to watch it. I think it wasn't that interesting. Then we have the second season of Don't Tease Me, Miss Nagatoro. Yeah, I think this is a strong contender for best romance of this season. Uh, at the beginning, I wasn't really convinced because in the first season, Nagatoro was really hard on the main guy. But then it starts to go out of that soon and it becomes all dairy. And just, it's basically a love comedy between these two guys. The girl teases him, the guy tries to act cool, but he is just basically an otaku that's trying to just live his life, and then the girls comes into his life and they start like to fall in love with each other. I think this is really wholesome and cute. So yeah, I think if you haven't watched the first season, give it a try. I think the first episode will be a lot of shock value for you, but then after that it becomes really wholesome and really cute. So yeah, the second season should be more of that. Then we have the second season of Tokyo Revengers. Yeah, what can I say? I think it has its flaws, but overall, it's a really interesting story. It's a really fun story to watch. It is really interesting. All the plot points, all the time traveling, all the fights that happens, all the sequences. I think overall, this is a really strong anime. I do understand why when the first season came out, the manga got a really high boost in sales, and it became, I think, better selling than One Piece for a time. So yeah, if you haven't watched the first season, I really recommend you. Just like keep in mind that yeah, um, this is not representative of reality because the kids are like 14 years old and they are like riding motorcycles and fighting. But if you just forget that and just like think of it as like a gang story, it's kind of like more interesting. So yeah, second season should be more of that. It's really interesting and it's a really thrilling show. Then we have the second season of Yoko Suiri. I watched the first season. I personally think it was boring. It really didn't interest me. I think the supernatural vibe wasn't hitting for me. I think it was the main characters combination were not as good. I think the girl sometimes looked too needy and the guy looked really cold at points, so I wasn't really into the relationship. And then I don't know, just the monsters were not my cup of tea. They were kind of bland in my opinion. There wasn't a strong villain that I could just rely on for the main villain. But yeah, I think for some reason this got mildly popular when it came. A lot of people were really watching it, but it wasn't for me. So yeah, if you like supernatural and mystery, I guess this is for you, but yeah, it wasn't for me. Then we have The Angel Next Door Spoils Me Rotten. Okay, this is the first one I have never heard anything about. Let's see. A Heavenly Encounter. Mahiro is a beautiful girl whose classmates all call her an angel. Not only is she a star athlete with perfect grades, she's also a drop-dead gorgeous. Amane, an average guy and self-admitted slob, has never thought much of the divine beauty, despite attending the same school. Everything changes, however, when he happens to see Mahiro sitting alone in a park during a rainstorm. Thus begins the strange relationship between this incredibly unlikely pair. Okay, this looks to be a really generic romance comedy. I don't know. I guess I will be watching it expecting nothing from it. Maybe it will surprise me. Probably not. I don't know. It just looks like any other rom-com that I have ever watched. I'm sure the main guy will fall in love with the girl. The girl just like pretends to be the perfect beauty, but in reality she has like some quirks. And then there will be a childhood friend a girl that wants to fight for the love of the guy, that for some reason, even though the guy is not popular, there's a lot of girls that like him, the usual. So yeah, I don't know. I don't expect too much of it, but we'll see. Maybe it will surprise me. Then we have this fourth season of Bungo Stray Dogs. I mean, I don't know why this is so low. I would expect this to be really high because it's a really popular anime. I think the main characters all are also in like an idol band or something like that. They all sing together and they make the openings and endings for the songs, which, to be honest, I think the endings are way better than the openings. But yeah, it is a really interesting story about detectives that fight some crime organization, and they all have different powers representative of their names, which are based of famous writers. And yeah, it's really interesting. I think the plot points and the stories are really good. I think the powers are especially interesting and they are not overpowered. So you know that when somebody has a strong power, there is always a way for them to fight. So yeah, it's a really interesting story. If you haven't watched it yet, I really recommend it to you. I know 3 seasons sound like a lot, but it's still, I think it's one of the best stories coming out this season. So I would recommend you, if you haven't seen it before, to give it a try. Then we have Nier and Automata. This is really interesting. I have never played the games, but I know about them, of course. I know the main plot points and I know what it is about. So yeah, I just want to go to this one blind and just be blown away by the story. I still heard about how the game has a lot of endings, so a lot of people are concerned about how are they going to develop this story. But hopefully it will be interesting. Hopefully there will be an interesting point to the story, and yeah, I hope we will see something good, because this is supposed to be a really interesting story, and hopefully the anime can do justice to the game. Then we have another one I never heard of, Ningen Fushi no Bokensha Tachi ga Sekai wo Suku yo desu. Never heard of this one. Each episode streams 1 week early in Japan. Okay. The city of Terene in the Holy Kingdom of Dines is a melting point of races and professions. Adventurers looking to get rich quick-witted merchants, singing and dancing bards, nobles, holy men, beast folks, and more. The town itself is so labyrinthine that it has been nicknamed the Labyrinth Town. Nick, a heartbroken light warrior who has been kicked out of martial arts adventuring party and deceived by his lover, is a resident of the city. Fed up with everything, he visits a bar only to find bad food, adventurers living it up, and uninteresting table mates. As he drowns his sorrows in lukewarm beer, all of his irritations and discontents burst forth into one declaration: humans can't be trusted. He thought that he was only voicing his own frustrations, but in reality the statement came from 4 voices. Thus begins an adventure of 4 people who carry their own scars. Okay, yeah, I don't know. This looks like a general adventure fantasy story about a guy who, from the looks of the image, meets up with a lot of girls and goes into an adventure. We'll see. I think the premise kind of looks interesting, but then you look at the image and it does look really generic. So yeah, I think it will be difficult to top off from any other interesting fantasy animes. It does look kind of generic, so we'll see. I think this could surprise us if the story goes into a different way, but if it's just the generic guide that goes into adventure with a lot of girls and just fight some monsters or demons, yeah, then it will be kind of boring. Moving on, Hyokin no Mayutsushi ga Sekai wa Suberu. The Ice Blade Sorcerer is hailed as the most powerful sorcerer in the world. The one who inherited this title, Raid White, struggles to deal with his own immense power. After fighting the Far East Ward, his last accomplishment, he vanished from the battlefield along with a deeply scarred psyche. 3 years have passed since then, and Ray has enrolled at the Arnold Academy of Magic, a school attended by elite sorcerers from around the world. Rei is the first ordinary to attend this academy since it was founded, so he's greeted by looks of scorn and contempt from the novel-born students. And now, he and the priceless friends he has found there are about to become entangled with multiple schemes, so begins the story of the most powerful sorcerer's school life filled with both friendship and hardship. Oh no. This just looks like 3 different animes that have aired in the last year. Yeah, it looks like a guy who tries to hide his power, but all the girls fall in love with him, and then he looks cool because he unleashes some of his power. You know, the usual. Yeah, this looks like a lot of animes that we already watched. This doesn't look interesting at all. I would just put here 3 different animes that have done exactly the same, and yeah, this is not new at all. This is just like copying something that has proven to be mildly working already and just keeping that formula. Nothing new, nothing interesting. Then for the next one, Tomo-chan is a girl. For this one, I have to say that I've already heard from it, and weirdly enough, I heard from it from videos on YouTube. There was this guy called Homicidal Teddy Bear who was making kind of like videos of the mangas, of the chapters of the mangas, voiced by herself with some other people. And yeah, it was a really fun, interesting to watch. It's basically the story of this girl who is really boyish and a tomboy that falls in love with her childhood friend, who is the other guy in the image. And she tries to show her girly points to the guy, but she tends to just go with like really boyish tendencies. So the guy just thinks of her as a friend, as like one of the guys, but the girl is trying to make him fall in love with her. And yeah, it's a really cute and interesting rom-com. I think this will be one to look out for, because if they do it right, it will be really interesting. I think it's really cute, really funny. It has its really interesting beats, and it's one of those animes that will probably have 2 chapters per episode, where each chapter follows like a different contained story, so you can just like watch random episodes without concerning too much about the plot progression, because usually it's just about the girl trying to make the guy look at him, and the guy just seeing her as one of the guys. That's basically the story, and it's really cute and romantic. Next one, Eiyu Bu wo kiwameru tame tenseisu. Soshite sekai saikyo no minarai kishi. Okay, looks like a knight, a woman knight fighting. She's supposed to be the strongest knight or something like that. Let's see. After living a life devoted to serving his country and people, Inglis one wished to be free of a king's burden, and to train was actually heard. Wish to be free of a king's burden and to train was actually heard. But as a beautiful girl, reborn in the far future as a daughter from to renowned knights, Inglis can now focus on mastering the martial art. A wish has been granted, and Inglis will be one of the front lines fulfilling the dream of becoming the strongest knight. Okay, so it's a gender bender. A guy who becomes the daughter of a renowned knight and focuses on mastering her art. Okay, looks interesting, looks different, looks unique. This is what I was looking for, guys. Something that doesn't follow the mold. Looks like a guy who transforms into a girl in the future. She becomes a knight, and she's fighting, I guess, against probably monsters and demons, or like a evil organization will be. I don't know. It has a formula that we have seen before, but in a different way, which I think is always good. So we'll see where it goes from that. I think it does look interesting. I think it's different. So yeah, I think I will be keeping a look for this one. Hopefully it does something different and it just doesn't stay to the generic girl trying to fight, but there is always something from stopping her from fighting, and then there starts to be love interest. Hopefully not, because this is supposed to be a guy in the girl's body. So yeah, we'll see where it goes from that. There will probably be Yuri. I expect it to be Yuri, and you know I love Yuri, so yeah, we'll see where it goes from that. Next is Saikyo Onmyoji no Isekai Tenseiki. You can be happy if you're just strong. Even if you're the strongest exorcist in the world, Exorcist Haruyoshi Kuga, cold and unrivaled genius, is betrayed by the Imperial Court and about to die. Resolving to be happy in his next life, he uses a secret reincarnation technique he created and reincarnates in another world, and so he receives a new name, Seika, and a new life. What I liked in my previous life was cunning. In this life, I'll be more calculating and find happiness. With the strongest exorcist techniques and strong demons working with him, what lies ahead for him, the peaceful life he wants for. This is the start of a story no one's ever seen before. The story of the strongest exorcist in a fantasy world. Bro, I know this is a story that I have seen before, and this is basically the same as the guy with the sword. It's just basically a guy with powers that's with a lot of girls, and it's basically the same as what we just talked about. And this is basically the same as the other 3 animes that already aired in the last year. So yeah, this looks really generic. It looks like we will have basically the same anime 2 times in the same season. I will watch a few episodes. I guess it's different because it is not a magician, it is an exorcist. But yeah, I don't expect anything. This looks like something that I have seen before. Next, Isekai Nonburi Nouka. After Hiraku dies of a serious illness, God brings him back to life, gives his health and youth back, and sends him to a fantasy world on his choice. In order to enjoy his second shot, God bestows upon him the almighty farming tool. Watch as Hiraku digs, chops, and plows into another world in this laid-back farming fantasy. This also looks like something that I already... This looks like the farming guy that has a lot of strong powers, but I guess this one doesn't say anything about him having powers, so I guess it will be different. I will see. If this is just a slice of life of a guy living in the outskirts of a kingdom, just like farming and for some reason meeting beautiful girls that also fall in love with him, I guess this will be different, but it will still be similar to the farming guy that is already this season, or the other 2 stories about the guy in the hero's party who lives as a pharmacist in the outskirts of the city, but instead of a pharmacy, is the guy that works in the farms. But yeah, we'll see. I don't expect too much of it, but it could surprise me. So it says it's a slice of life, so we'll see where it goes from that. Next, Spy Kyoshitsu. Conflict-ravaged nations now deploy covert operatives instead of missiles. Lily is recruited into spy training, but her practical skills are absolutely abysmal. Desperate to pass, she leaps at the chance to join the mysterious tomboyish team. Too bad the team is filled with even more hopeless spies. Together, they must conquer the impassable mission and best their genius instructor, but the true purpose behind their classroom is more harrowing than they can imagine. Okay, a mystery, comedy, action, romance. Okay, this looks interesting. This gives me kind of the Princess Principal kind of vibes about like spies and mystery. This looks really interesting, something that we haven't seen before, or at least haven't seen in a while. It kind of looks really unique in its own way, and hopefully it will just surprise us because it's really low in the charts. That means like a lot of people haven't heard of this one. And hopefully it will be unique in its own way. I really like the premise of this one. We'll see where it goes, but it does look interesting. Next is Kubo-san wa Mob wo Yurusanai. Junta Shiraishi has just one goal, to experience youth to its fullest. But this is easier said than done. Junta is so socially invisible that people at school would swear he skipped class even when he's still sitting right behind them. Everything changes when Junta meets Nagisa Kubo. She's the only person who pays Junta any attention, and her constant teasing is sure to turn Junta's quiet life upside down because Kubo won't let him be invisible. Okay. Another rom-com, okay, this... I don't know why they say that's seinen. It does look like a rom-com shonen, but maybe it will have some more adult themes into it. I don't know. This does give me some good vibes. This looks like an interesting rom-com. The premise looks something that we have seen before, like in Don't Tease With Me, Miss Nagatoro, but it looks like the guy will be more proactive. So we'll see where it goes from that. It does look interesting. It looks like my kind of show, and hopefully this will be the romance of the season. We will see, but it's giving me good vibes. Next is Ayakashi Triangle. I heard of this one. This is from the same author as To Love Ru. So yeah, I would expect a lot of ecchi and a lot of comedy. So yeah, the story is Kazamaki Matsuri is an exorcist ninja who exorcises evil spirits called Ayakashi. His childhood friend Kanade Suzu tends to attract Ayakashi, so he secretly protects her from them. But now Suzu has caught the eye of Shirogane, an Ayakashi who looks like a cat but rules over all the Ayakashi as their king. Okay. Yeah, this is from the same guy as To Love Ru. I haven't heard too much of these ones, so probably it won't be as good as To Love Ru, but I will give it a try. It's always nice to have an ecchi anime because we haven't had some good ecchi anime in a while. If you don't count maybe the Peter Grill one that's airing right now, which honestly I felt it dropped off from quality from the first season. But yeah, we'll see. It is interesting. The plot looks like a guy with two girls, which is basically the same plot as we had in To Love Ru. But hopefully it differentiates itself from its predecessor and does something different. The plot is completely different, but hopefully the author doesn't fall into the same kind of plot as the original To Love Ru and does something different with Ayakashi Triangle. Next, a villainess show. Okay, Tsundere Akuyaku Reijo Liselote to Jikyo no Endo-kun to Kaisetsu no Kobayashi-san. Endo and Kobayashi just decide to play a magical romance, an otome featuring a devious villainess named Liselotte. Liselotte. Kobayashi thinks Liselotte is a traditionally dastardly villain, but Endo insists Liselotte is just misunderstood. The pair bickered and argue about Liselotte's character and motivations, but little do they know that Liselotte, in-game fiancé, can hear their every word, and their colorful chatter will lead him down a completely different path than his character is supposed to tread. Okay, this looks different, because usually it is the girl or the guy getting isekai into the world. This looks like just two guys playing a game, and it happens to be in reality, and the main protagonist of the story can hear everything, and he changes based on what they are saying, so he understands better, and he doesn't become the typical protagonist that just follows the main girl rather than thinking by himself, and he can see that maybe the villainess is just doing what's best for him, so he ends up falling in love with the villainess rather than the main girl. This looks unique. This looks like a premise that we have seen before with a really unique twist, and I love villainess animes, so I think this is for me. I think a lot of people should be watching more villainess animes, and I think a lot of people should be watching this one. Next one, Kaikou Sareta Ankoku Heishi, 30 Dai no Slow na Second Life. You know, when the word is slow second life, it's going to be a farming anime, but we will see. Okay. Dario, a dark soldier in the Demon King's army who cannot use magic, has risen to the position of assistant in the four generals with his talent and energy, and has been wielding his skill. However, as soon as the four generals are replaced, Dario is fired from the army. Dario is devastated, but when he arrives in a human village, he finds that his adventuring skills, which are supposed to be useless to demons, have blossomed. I was a human? Daryl decides to spend his second life in the village, and the requests start pouring in trouble false charges due with his natural skills and the adjusting power that he developed in his old place. The former Dark Soldier solves them all. This just looks like the hero party guy who lives as a pharmacist. He won't be a pharmacist, but he will be the guy who fixes everything because he's really strong. He used to be I guess in this case, in the demon's army, but it's the same. it just looks the same. It doesn't look any original at all. It just looks really, really generic. I will give it a try, but I expect nothing from it. Next one, Benuria Saito-san Isekai ni Iku. Saito's never been anyone special, but his unremarkable path takes a turn when he wakes up in another world. After all, who other than the handyman could be trusted to open locked treasure chests or to repair equipment? Okay, this looks to be the story of a guy who becomes the thief of a party. The art for the anime looks interesting. It looks really unique. I think I'll be watching this one. The premise doesn't give too much, but it looks to be interesting. It looks to be kind of like people party going into dungeons and just enjoying their party because it looks to be a comedy. But yeah, it looks interesting. It looks unique. I love isekais, so I will be watching this one. And I think it sets its way to be different from the other isekais that we have watched, and especially from the other isekais this season. Next is Tensei Oyo to Tensei Reiyu no Mahoku Kakume. Despite her supposed ineptitude with regular magic, Princess Anishpia defies the aristocracy expectations by developing magicology, a unique magical theory based on memories from her past life. One day, she witnesses the brilliant noblewoman Eophilia, unjustly stripped of her title as the kingdom's next monarch. That when Anishpia concocts a plan to help Ophelia regain her good name, which somehow involves them living together and researching magic. Little do these two ladies know, however, that their chance encounter will alter not only their own futures, but those of the kingdom and the entire world. Okay, looks like a Yuri. Feels like a Yuri. The image is looking like a Yuri. It's probably a Yuri. Okay, an isekai, I guess. It says it's an isekai, but whatever. If it's a Yuri, I'll be watching it. Next one. Tondemos Kyo de Isekai Horo Meshi. Mukoda Tsuyoshi, an ordinary salaryman, is suddenly transported to another world one day. The unique skill he gains upon arrival to this world seemingly useless online grocery. Mukoda is discouraged at first, but the mother learns he is able to bring his new world using his skill proved to have some unbelievable effects. Okay, looks like a guy who makes a lot of monster friends by giving them good food. If this focuses on the food, then it may be interesting. If this is a generic isekai where the guy fights and at some point he gives food to everyone else, it will be boring. It doesn't give me too much faith, but we can give it a few episodes. It's made by MAPPA, so the quality of the animation should be good, but I don't know, it just doesn't give me a good vibe. Next one. Rougo ni Sonate Isekai de 8 Manmai no Kinka wo Tamemetsu. Mitsuha is an 18-year-old girl who's often mistaken for a middle schooler due to her childhood-like face and small stature. The story begins when she loses her parents and her older brother at the same time in an accident and ends up all alone in the world. She fails her university entrance exam due to the shock of losing her family. These are people who are after her parents' insurance money. She doesn't know whether she would go to college or start working. There are also a lot of expenses to worry about, including living expenses and the cost of maintaining the house. One day, as she worries about how she will survive, she's given the wall-jumping ability by a mysterious being that allows her to go back and forth between this world and an isekai. Now that she has this ability, she comes up with a plan for the future in which she saves 1 billion yen in each world for a total of 2 billion yen. 80,000 gold coins. Okay. It gives me a good premise. A girl that can go between an isekai world and back to her own world, so it is not completely an isekai, but it will have isekai themes. And it looks also to be cute girls doing cute stuff. Because, yeah, it looks like a small girl, so they will probably don't go with any sexual themes for this one or too strong into the Yuri side. So yeah, I think I'll give it this one a try. I think the premise looks unique, but it's also not exactly too interesting. So we'll have to give it a few episodes and decide whether it's good or bad. Next is Trigon Stampede. I really have no idea why this is so low, but this is supposed to be a really good classic anime. I personally never watched the original one, so I guess this will be my first entry to this story. I think this is going to be a remake. It's not going to be a continuation. I have no idea what happens in the first one, so hopefully it's good. It's made by Orange, so you can expect some good 3D animation. And yeah, there's a reason why the original one is a classic, and hopefully this will be doing a service to that classic. Next one is Sugar Apple Fairy Tale. In a world where fairies are bought and sold to the highest bidder, humans aren't exactly on friendly terms with the Fae folk. But friendship is exactly what Anya Halford seeks with Charlie, her new fairy bodyguard. Though he's not so keen on this idea, as his new master, Annette tasks him with escorting her through a particularly dangerous area. But with a reluctant bodyguard eager to escape a life of servitude, she'll have to deal with a lot more than she bargained for. Okay, yeah, looks like a romance fantasy anime. Gives me some good vibes. The art for the anime looks interesting. And yeah, it's a different premise. Hopefully it delivers on this premise and doesn't go into like the full comedy with a bit of rom-com, what they always do. This looks to be more heavy into the story, especially because it's said to be about slaves and I guess like hate between races. So probably, hopefully they will do something with that rather than just doing a generic rom-com. But we will see. I think this gives me some good vibes. Next one, The Legend of the Heroes. Septian calendar year 1205. Lavi was born in the North Umbria, the poorest region in the northern West Samaria. She enlisted in the Northern Jaegers, the largest in the continent, to protect the hometown and distinguish herself from her grandfather Vlad, who was once a hero but betrayed Northumbria. Her devotion to her mission often earned her violations of regulations, and one day she's ordered to assemble a platoon with Martin, Iseria, and Talion for an impossible spy mission to Erebonia, to gather information for the Imperial Hero, a mysterious threat to Northumbria. Looks unique. This is an action, this is a full action, it looks to have some fantasy themes. It looks like a good maybe like medieval with a bit of fantasy sprinkle in it. And yeah, it looks unique, it looks interesting. Hopefully it goes in the right way, because I have seen animes like this one that have a good or interesting premise and then they fall flat. So let's hope that they don't do this in this one. Hopefully it will have a good story that can deliver. Next one, Ars no Kyoju. The great beast created the land, but humans stole it. Angered, the beast began eating humans, who in turn called upon the gods to fight the beast. In the Age of the Sword, heroes and mythology, giant beasts are hunted by humans for profit. Jiro, who makes his living hunting beasts, encounters Kumi, who is being chased by someone, and in that moment decides to save her. As rumors spread regarding humanity and mysterious experiments, together they seek to discover the world's secret. Okay, I think the art is not for me. This looks like 3D, which most people don't do right. But we'll see. I think the premise kind of gives me bites of world end of the world end anime, and yeah, it's doesn't give me that unique premise, but it still looks good. So well, I will see. If it's 3D, I will probably drop it. If it is not 3D and has an interesting story, I will probably give it a try. Next, The Vampire Dimes in No Time Season 2. I watched the first season. I think it's really a funny anime that you can just watch and just turn your brain off. I think the armadillo is really cute. I think it's called John. The John the armadillo is really cute. I think it has some funny bits. Sometimes it's not that funny. Sometimes it's just cringy, but it's still... I think it's still just like a fun show that you can just like turn your brain and watch, and don't expect too much from the plot. It's just a funny anime. So if you are into that kind of show, if you have watched the first season, you will probably watch the second one. If not, give it the first season a try, and then you will see where it goes from that. I think I'll be watching the second season because sometimes I just need to watch something without thinking too much about it. Next is the second season of Orphan. The third season of Orphan. I watched the first 2 seasons. I think it's not that interesting. I heard the original anime that came out long ago was better. I think the first 2 seasons were not unique. They were kind of boring. It's just a fantasy anime that has some more seinen story, but it's still kind of boring. Then for Kyoto Animation, we have the second season of Tsurune. I personally didn't watch the first season because I'm not into like this type of show, which looks to be kind of a bit of BL, kind of like more service for the Fuyoshis. And then it's about archery, but it's not about archery from like normal one. It's using like the Japanese longbows. So yeah, if you're into that, I guess it's for you. If you watch the first season, you'll probably watch the second one because it's made by Kyoto Animation, so you know the animation is good and it has some good quality. But yeah, it wasn't for me, so I didn't watch it. And lastly, we have Body Daddies. Targets they go after never get away, but somehow these hitman teams find themselves looking after a 5-year-old girl. And so begins the family life of a hot-blooded and cold-headed team of hired killers and a naive and innocent little girl. Will they be able to balance career and parenthood? And will this temporary family find happiness? Okay, this basically looks like Spy Family with 2 dads. I don't know. I guess this is also for the Fuyoshis, but we'll see. I think the premise does looks a bit interesting. It's supposed to be a comedy, so hopefully they don't go too much into the BO and more into the comedy. And yeah, we'll see where it goes from that. Okay, and with that we conclude this video. I think this season it is really packed with a lot of isekais. Most of them don't look really that interesting, but a few of them do. There is also some returning animes that I think I'll be watching. Especially, I think Tokyo Revengers is really strong, and of course, Vinland Saga second season is something that you have to watch. And yeah, I think this season is not as strong as the previous season, but it will still be interesting. And I think there's always something for everyone to watch. And I think there is a lot of animes this season. Hopefully, the quantity will help with some quality. And yeah, with that, I think this is all for this video. Thank you guys for watching. I will be seeing you guys next time.